The puzzle of the Bangladesh-India border. Imagine waking up in a town that, on paper, belongs to one country, but you're completely surrounded by another nation's territory. The only way to reach your actual homeland is by illegally crossing an international border. For thousands of residents along the Bangladesh-India border, this was daily reality in one of the world's most complex border situations. Until 2015, this border region contained something truly extraordinary, a constellation of 162 enclaves. These were small pieces of sovereign territory completely surrounded by another country. India had 106 enclaves inside Bangladesh, while Bangladesh had 92 enclaves inside India. The complexity reached mind-boggling levels with counter-enclaves, enclaves within enclaves, and even a counter-enclave, the only third-order enclave in world history. Picture this: a piece of Bangladesh completely surrounded by Indian territory, which itself was completely surrounded by Bangladesh. A geographical Russian nesting doll creating a labyrinth of borders where sovereignty changed with each invisible boundary crossed. When viewed from above, cartographers called this a leopard spot pattern. Scattered territories sprinkled across the landscape like confetti thrown randomly across a map. The largest of these enclaves was Dahagram-Garpata, a Bangladeshi territory of about 4,600 people surrounded entirely by India. The smallest was a plot of land barely the size of a football field. These territorial puzzles trapped over 50,000 people in legal and political limbo. For the Mia family living in an Indian enclave inside Bangladesh, daily life meant impossible choices. When their young daughter developed a high fever, they faced either crossing an international border illegally to reach Indian hospitals or seeking treatment in Bangladesh without documentation. Like many families, they had become experts at navigating the dangerous spaces between nations just to access basic services. Enclave residents existed in a bizarre administrative vacuum. They were citizens of countries they could rarely visit. Most lacked official documentation from either country, making them effectively stateless. They couldn't vote, couldn't access government services, and lived beyond the protection of either nation's laws. The practical challenges were enormous. Medical emergencies meant deciding between illegal border crossing or going without care. Many women gave birth at home because reaching a hospital meant risking arrest. Education presented similar obstacles. Children in many enclaves had no schools at all. Those seeking education risked illegal border crossings daily, often paying bribes to guards. Some families sent children to live with mainland relatives just so they could attend school. Making a living became complicated by geography. A farmer in Dahagram-Garpata might own land requiring crossing into Indian territory. Harvesting crops meant smuggling their own produce across an international border. Each crossing carried the threat of arrest, harassment, or exploitation by officials. Access to electricity, clean water, and telephone service was virtually non-existent in many enclaves. Local governments wouldn't invest in infrastructure for people who weren't their citizens. Police rarely entered these areas, creating lawless pockets where crime flourished. Sometimes criminals from both countries would hide in enclaves to escape prosecution. Residents developed informal systems to cope. They created unofficial local governments, established makeshift courts, and access services through smuggling networks or by bribing officials. Many developed dual identities, operating as citizens of whichever country was most practical at the moment. These invisible people were forgotten by both nations and trapped in geographical purgatory. During floods or natural disasters, neither country would send aid. During religious riots or political unrest, enclave dwellers had nowhere to flee for safety. What created such a bizarre situation? The answer lies in a historical accident involving a chess game and colonial powers who drew borders with little regard for residents. The story begins in the 18th century with a chess match between the Raja of Cooch Behar and the Nawab of Rangpur, two regional rulers in what was then part of the Mughal Empire. According to local legend, these nobles wagered entire villages in their chess games. When one lost a match, he would surrender a village to the winner, creating a patchwork of scattered territories. While historians debate the chess story's accuracy, local rulers did exchange land parcels through various agreements and conflicts. These fragmented territories became more problematic when the British East India Company took control in the late 18th century. The British maintained these arrangements, finding them useful as buffer zones. The crisis worsened in 1947 with India's partition, when British authorities hastily drew borders, creating India and Pakistan, with East Pakistan later becoming Bangladesh. The rushed process failed to resolve the enclave situation, cementing it into international law. When asked about the enclaves, British Lord Mountbatten, who oversaw partition, reportedly replied that small issues would be resolved after independence. Those small issues remained unresolved for nearly 7 decades. Diplomatic efforts to exchange enclaves repeatedly stalled over political concerns until 2015, when India and Bangladesh implemented the Land Boundary Agreement. This historic agreement allowed for an exchange of enclaves, with India transferring 111 enclaves to Bangladesh and Bangladesh transferring 51 enclaves to India. Residents could either move to their country of citizenship or remain and adopt citizenship of the surrounding country. Most chose to stay where they had always lived, but gained citizenship of the surrounding country. After all, many had deeper connections to the country surrounding them than to their technical homeland. They spoke the local language, shared cultural practices with neighbors, and had established livelihoods they didn't want to abandon. For others, particularly Hindus in Bangladeshi enclaves who feared religious discrimination, the agreement meant relocating to India with official status. The implementation wasn't perfect. Some residents reported inadequate compensation for lost property or facing bureaucratic hurdles, but it addressed a centuries-old problem. The exchange ended one of the world's strangest border situations. Thousands received birth certificates, identification cards, and official recognition for the first time. Children could attend school without crossing borders. Farmers could tend fields legally, and families could access healthcare without fear of arrest.